morning. Friends. My name is Lisa Pavia-Hegel. My pronouns are she, her. And along with Reverend Krista Taves, I would like to welcome you to Eliot Chapel. Joining us today is Sue Myers. There she is. For Sunday Pastoral Care, please find her if you have anything weighing on your heart. If you have young children staying with you today and they start to get restless, please just kind of shuffle them all off to, well, with you, you have to go with them, to Fellowship Hall. There's a live feed of the service and they can run all they like. There are snacks for the kids after the service, and though it might be pretty chilly, of course the playground should be available. I'm not going out there, but it's up to you. If you are a guest with us today, a special welcome to you. Kathy Bruntz, where's Kathy? Is here as our welcome team lead, doing her most excellent welcome team lead dance. She can answer any questions that you have about the congregation and will be in Adams Hall after the service. There are guest forms at both of our entrances. There's a QR code on the screen. We have a lot of different ways for you to tell us how we can keep in touch with you. And if you join us for coffee hour after and you grab a blue cup, we will make sure that you are warmly welcomed. That means beautiful members and friends, if you see someone with a blue cup, please, one at a time, not all at once, go up and say hello to them. Our online coffee hour for our beautiful online friends is at 1:30. And now I invite you, as you wish, to join in our welcome today. Please respond with, "You are welcome here," and then with our refrain at the very end. If you are Black, brown, white, indigenous, APIA, whatever your origin, you are welcome here. If you're an immigrant, a refugee, or a person without documentation, you are welcome here. If you believe in God all of the time, some of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. If you have a disability, visible or invisible, or if you are neurodiverse, you are welcome here. If you've been here 100 times, or if today is your first day, you are welcome here. If you want for nothing, or if you struggle to make ends meet, you are welcome here. No matter whom you love, or what your gender identity, you are welcome here. For this is a community of diversity, of love, and of justice, and it is good to be together. Let us enter into the spirit of worship. That was gorgeous. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism, and it reminds us that we are entering into sacred space. Our chalice lighting words today comes from "To Speak When Silence Feels Safer" by the Reverend Michelle Collins. This flame burns for the courage we find when fear makes sense. Not the absence of doubt, but the choice to act anyway. We light it for those who speak when silence feels safer, and for those who act even when invisibility beckons. Please rise in body and or spirit for our opening hymn, "There Is Love," and then remain standing for our congregational covenant.
There is love holding me. There is love holding all that I love. There is love holding all. I rest in this love. There is love holding me, yes. There is a love holding all that we love. There is a love holding all. We rest in this love. We rest in this love. We rest in this love.
In Unitarian Universalism, our covenants are the agreements we make that changes love into action. Please join me in speaking our congregational covenant. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other, to an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, and to find ways to improve our church for all of our members and friends. Please be seated.
Good morning. I want to speak to you just briefly before we start our offertory. We don't talk about our pledges very often from the pulpit because we trust that we will each take the personal responsibility to pay that for the congregation and for all of our ministries, and that's why we can share our offertory with organizations in the community that share our values. We are halfway through our year, and I want to thank everyone who has either paid their pledge in full or has kept up with their pledges. We are starting to see a slowdown of our monthly pledges. And so I would ask you to be mindful that if you are behind or haven't been able to make a payment on your pledge yet, that you attend to that. We really depend on those monthly pledges for us to go through. And we have enough to go through the whole year if we're all faithful to paying the pledges that we promised. Now, if there's been a change for you, if something has happened and you're not going to be able to fulfill your pledge, don't feel guilty. Just let us know, because then we can make adjustments as much as possible for the remainder of the year. We just need to know. So please don't be afraid of letting us know that. And if you are able to fulfill your pledge, I would invite you to do that. We are so very thankful to everyone, and we need each other. We depend on each other for the beautiful things that happen here. And with that, I'm going to invite Lisa to come forward to begin our offering.
And because of those wonderful pledges, every week we are able to share our offertory with an organization that shares our values. And I know we're all very proud of what we do with the money that we're given. This month, our shared plate is the Meacham Park Neighborhood Improvement Association, and they help improve the quality of life in the historic Meacham Park neighborhood. They are a southeastern neighborhood of Kirkwood. It's a historic neighborhood, primarily founded by people of color. They provide a forum for sharing information, connecting neighbors, and promoting activities. And they foster civic involvement in this very diverse community. As we prepare to give, we welcome the presence of all ages, all of our children, in the sanctuary. Together, young and old, we practice generosity, knowing that our gifts create ripples of love and care in our community. You can donate through the plate, through our QR code on the screen, or text Eliot and shared plate, one word, plus the amount you wish to give to 73256. Then you'll get a link that will let you complete it on the website. Let us be a generous people. Please join me in dedicating this offering to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action. We dedicate our lives, and these are offerings.
Good morning. I'd like to invite forward the young at heart and our children for a time for all ages about a very, very special woman. Hello. Want to sit here? Come on, there we go. So today, I want to tell you a story about a woman named Shirley Chisholm. We are recognizing Martin Luther King's birthday today, and Martin Luther King was also a very special person who did a lot of work to bring racial equality to our country. And so did Shirley. So I want to tell you a bit about Shirley Chisholm's amazing story. Shirley Chisholm lived in Brooklyn, New York. And you can see her picture on the screen. This is a picture of Shirley as an adult. Now, as a kid, Shirley was curious and bright, and she noticed everything. She noticed who got to speak in class and who got passed over. She noticed when kids were chosen first for games, and she noticed who were left behind. And whenever something felt unfair, it really hurt her heart. Shirley's parents taught her a very important truth, that every person has dignity and worth, no matter the color of their skin, no matter how cool they are, no matter how many friends they have. Everybody has inherent dignity and worth. And Shirley practiced it every day by listening carefully, sharing what she had, and standing up for others. Even when she was young, Shirley knew that fairness wasn't just about rules. It was about kindness and justice working together. As she grew older, she loved learning more than ever. She became a teacher, and she made sure that no one was skipped over and that no one was interrupted. She encouraged questions. She welcomed different ideas and reminded her students that mistakes were part of learning. Many of us would have loved to have her as a teacher. And she would often say, "We grow when we learn together." And her students remembered that for the rest of their lives. But Shirley noticed that outside of her classroom, many people still weren't being treated fairly. Some families struggled to find good homes, and some people were ignored just because of who they were. Shirley believed that communities were responsible for each other, and she felt called to help. So she did something really bold. She ran for Congress in 1968. That is 58 years ago. Many people said it couldn't be done. "You're too different," they said to her. "You don't belong here." And she listened respectfully, but it didn't change her mind. She believed in the value of justice, equity, and compassion for all people. She believed democracy was stronger when everyone had a voice. And she was elected. She won her election. And when she walked into the United States Congress, she walked in with courage and determination. She spoke up for children, workers, women, and people whose needs had been overlooked for a long, long time. She didn't always agree with others, but she believed in respectful dialogue and the power of conscience. Then in 1972, that's 54 years ago, she ran for president. And she knew it would be hard, and she knew that she probably wouldn't win, but she believed in hope and the power of showing what was possible. "If they don't give you a seat at the table," she said, "bring a folding chair." She reminded the nation that differences weren't weaknesses, they were strengths. She believed that courage meant acting with love even when you were afraid. And she believed that every person had something important to offer. So today, when we remember Shirley Chisholm, we think about her brave voice and her open heart. When you believe in dignity, justice, and compassion, even one small voice can change the world. And that's the end of our time. Let's sing you off to your classes. Our prayer today is written by Reverend Marjorie Belazaire, a woman of color and a Unitarian Universalist minister, and it's aptly named Prayer for While in the Struggle. So I invite you, as you are willing and able, to join with me in the spirit of prayer and meditation. And if it is of support to you in coming into that place, let us take 3 deep breaths together as one in this beloved community. Spirit of light and love, spirit of resistance, spirit of generosity, that which serves as our conscience in this work that we do to dismantle white supremacy, to empower the marginalized, to insist that black and brown lives matter. We have been angered. We have been saddened. We have been pushed to the brink once more. Let us offer a moment of silence for those in our city who have been detained by ICE this week. We are also inspired and seem resolved to do better this time, to not simply get to the other side of this moment, but to get there morally healthier, to get to a safer place for black and brown bodies. Spirit, help us to understand that we each have a role in justice work. For our liberations are tied to one another's. Give us the clarity of mind to know that our individual part is in this struggle, that there are many ways to protest injustice. Help us to find our way and commit to it. Spirits, we ask for guidance. Send us strength and endurance. Help us to give our all to this and hold nothing back, for precious lives depend on it. We will be imperfect. Rest assured we will mess up over and over again, and we must do it anyway. We must summon the courage to tear down this system of injustice and get busy creating a world community with justice for all. Let us enter into a time of silence. Let us speak the names of those we would hold in our love and care. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. I invite us to stay seated for our meditative hymn, 1040 Hush. We will sing the first 3 verses.
Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like freedom. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do? Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Sounds like justice. Somebody's calling my name. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, what shall I do? What shall I do?
So Krista asked me to give a little bit of a reflection on our topic today, and I thought I would relate it to an event that was held here, I think it was last week, right? And we did a workshop, and Claire Weinekind, who is on our LGBTQ advocacy team, and people from Promo, which is another LGBTQIA+ organization, did a session on something called deep canvassing. And it's something I'd heard of, I'd read about it, and I wanted to attend not just because I would love to do deep canvassing, but also because the modality felt relevant for my work as a teacher in a college communication classroom. I teach public speaking to engineers. Pray for me. And during that training, one of the things that they talk about is that good advocacy comes from a strong sense of knowing your why. And we were asked to reflect on our why. And we went around the room, and as I feel like a lot of us feel, a lot of the emotion, because that's where we start with our why, was dismay, fear, sadness, sorrow for division, anger at the policies and the actions of those in power, and of an abiding terror that the lives of ourselves and our loved ones are in ever increasing and very real peril. I know I feel it. I know many of you feel that as well. But that's our emotion. That's not necessarily a why. Right? And so in thinking about that more, I realized that my why comes very strongly from my where. See, I've always lived and worked in these transitional spaces between the suburban and the rural. I've taught students who live and work on farms. I've taught people who've lost their jobs due to manufacturing problems. I've always lived and worked in these spaces where I was always the square peg in the round hole. And I'm still there. On Tuesday, I will walk into a classroom where some students will take one look at the, I have a vibe. People are like, yeah, we know. We've noticed. And they're going to either think that I am a safe port in a storm, that I'm a safe space, or that I am that thing that their parents told them to be worried about. That I'm going to be one of those people who judge them or hate them for their personal beliefs. And ever increasingly, I'm looking back at them with a lot of the same kind of fear. Because I know I'm one assignment, one viral video, one out-of-context worship service clip from being taken out of the conversation. And that's really scary. Because, I need health insurance. And And it's been tempting. Let me sanitize my curriculum. A lot of my colleagues are doing that. Let me erase the controversial. But so far, I haven't. Because I know that I'm privileged to be where I am and to have gotten to where I am. And I know I have a responsibility because of that privilege to try to do something, to make some sort of difference. And I decided that my work a long time ago was going to be a sort of Walmart greeter for the movement. I'm going to be firm in my own beliefs, but I'm going to be kind. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be as open-minded to the underlying thoughts that they have. Because my thought is that even if I can just circumvent that expectation of judgment, if someone who looks like this can be understanding, maybe that might put a chink in the armor. Maybe it might crack open a door. And maybe they'll be open to hearing things and questioning their assumptions about people who are different from them. And sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes there's another one of those square peg and round hole students who look at me and say, I see you, fam, thank you. And then there's some times when I have these aha class-wide moments. And those are great, and I live for those, because heck, at least they're not watching SportsCenter on their phone during class. But then as many times as I've had those great moments, I have failed. I have ended up with my foot firmly in my mouth and a really bad evaluation on my classroom end-of-course surveys. It's imperfect. I'm imperfect, and it can be exhausting. But that's still what? That's still not why. And in that reflection, I realized that I need hope. I'm a good old-fashioned panentheist. I believe that there is divinity in everything that draws breath. And I have to cling to that divinity in every person. I have to cling to it because without that abiding hope in the possibility of humanity, the energy that it takes to show up and do the work is too much for me. Without the idea that we are arcing toward justice, or that this is a period of transition and we're going to something better, I have no why. So my why remains hope. And I'm thankful for every single one of you and for this community, because you help me refill that well of hope. Because I know that sometimes when I feel like a lone weirdo in a square peg in a room full of round holes, and I feel lonely, I know that all you weirdos are here working for justice and loving each other in a way that only this kind of community can. So I have to thank you for this community. And if you would like a little hopeful hug, find me after the service, and I will thank you personally.
Thank you, Lisa, for sharing so much of yourself and for speaking things that so many of us are feeling. It feels to me, it's always been the case that we will have people in our lives that we are uncomfortable with. But it feels like it's growing, like it's a more common and present thing for us to have people in our lives that we have to feel like we have to be very careful around. People that we don't share as much with as we might. If things are different, we're hesitant and cautious because our ideas of what is moral and true and fair are sometimes so different that it feels dangerous, right? The stakes feel so high. And indeed, we are seeing some of the ideas that feel so dangerous gain power. The power to destroy lives and to bring in incredible suffering. So many people are being dehumanized. So many people are being written off as unworthy. This has always been the case in this country, but it's being magnified at this time, brought into clearer focus for many of us who were in a privileged place to not see it. And I've heard many of us talk about the hurt. The hurt when loved ones believe things that feel so wrong. We talk about the grief that we carry, about relationships that have ended or become more guarded and less free because of political or religious differences. We're paying a spiritual price for this increasing isolation and division that is in our families and in our neighborhoods and in our communities, and even when you're sitting with parents while your kids are at practice. Right? There just feels like this tension. Now, the theme of our month is resistance. We've been talking about resistance all month, and we began by looking at inner resistance to growth and change. And last week, we shifted to resistance as a response to injustice. And today, we're going to blend those two. The Sociology Institute defines resistance in the justice form of resistance as the actions and strategies that individuals and groups use to oppose, challenge, or subvert existing power structures, social norms, or systems of domination. Resistance encompasses everything from subtle acts of defiance in everyday life to organized social movements that challenge entire systems of power. Last week we talked about how this beloved community engages in collective resistance to oppression, and today we're shifting from communal resistance to personal resistance, actually interpersonal resistance. How do we engage in loving resistance with the people in our lives? In Unitarian Universalism, the holy happens in relationship, healing, and freedom happens in relationship. So does justice. And I'm going to invite us to think about how we stay in less than comfortable relationships authentically and respectfully, and how not writing people off is a form of resistance that can usher in change. But I want to emphasize, though, that I want to clarify that in this interpersonal resistance within our personal relationships, I'm not talking about staying in abusive relationships. That's not what I'm talking about. You have the right to take care of yourself and remove yourself from relationships that are abusive. I'm talking about uncomfortable relationships because it feels like we're having opposing beliefs and values, not that we are in danger. So I want to start with another story about Shirley Chisholm, because she's truly an amazing person and has an amazing story about how change happens in interpersonal relationships. Some of you may know the story already, and others of you, this will be the first time. Shirley Chisholm decided to run for president in 1972. And just think about what was going on in 1972, right? The Vietnam War was raging, and the streets were filled with protesters. The Kent State shooting had already happened 2 years before. It was 1 year before the Supreme Court would legalize abortion, and the Democratic Party was still fighting for its soul. The Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act plunged the Democratic Party into a struggle for its identity. There was still a strong contingent of white Southern segregationists trying to regain control of the party, but white liberals, women, and African Americans and other people of color were gaining momentum within the Democratic Party. So there was literally this struggle. And when Shirley Chisholm announced her intention to run, she was denounced by everyone. Of course, starting with the white segregationists, but also white liberals. She was also denounced by her own community, accused of diluting the black vote and preventing black male candidates from amassing enough delegates to shape the platform of the white man who was likely to win the nomination. The question, though, was which white man was going to win the nomination and how to influence that white man. And they hoped that having as many delegates for the black male candidates would give them a voice in that platform. Shirley Chisholm also faced an assassination attempt. Someone tried to stab her. Voting blocks she thought she could count on didn't show up, and promises made to her by other black candidates were not honored. So it was a struggle. It was a real struggle, but she persisted. And then the governor of Alabama and segregationist George Wallace, also running for the nomination and running pretty strongly, was shot during a campaign event and paralyzed. And Shirley announced to her campaign that she was going to visit him. Her campaign organizers were horrified. You go to see him, you're betraying your people. You're betraying everything you stand for. But she didn't back down. She marched to that hospital and went to visit George Wallace, and they had a private 15-minute visit. Wallace was shocked that she showed up. And when she told him that she wouldn't want what happened to him to happen to anyone, he wept and wept and wept. She also said that despite their disagreements on racial equality, she agreed with Wallace's criticisms of the domination of corporate institutions and unresponsiveness of the government to the people. And then she left. And she was roundly criticized by many as having sold out. She sold out by recognizing George Wallace's humanity, by recognizing him as a person worthy of having a conversation with. Shirley didn't win the Democratic nomination. Neither did Wallace. That shooting, that took him out of the race. But something had changed. In 1974, Wallace marshaled support from Southern Democrats to pass Chisholm's bill, giving domestic workers the right to a minimum wage. He also gradually disavowed his past views on racial equality, and he credited Chisholm's visit for that. All because she visited him in the hospital, recognized his humanity at one of the worst moments of his life. We are in a time when it is so tempting to dismiss the worth and value of people we disagree with, especially when it's costing lives. You know, how many of us are seeing reel after reel after reel in our social media feeds about ICE agents doing terrible things to other human beings? And I have certainly met those reels with my own stream of four-letter words. I did grow up in rural Ontario. That kind of goes with it. But just that feeling of utter, like real hatred and venom inside me. Segregationism costs thousands and thousands of lives, just like ICE raids are costing lives, ripping apart families, ripping apart communities. and those who voted for the current administration made this possible. And yet, as Unitarian Universalists, we covenant to affirm and promote the inherent worth and value of every person, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the people we would never want to be in the same room with, much less having a conversation. But that is what we call ourselves to, and it is a very tall order. This is not a faith for the faint of heart. We are called to affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even the ones that we could swear at from now until eternity. But oh, it's fun to be self-righteous, right? It's fun to be so incredibly right. But ultimately, our conviction that every single person has inherent worth and dignity is an act of resistance. When people are being arrested and treated like cattle, when whole groups of people are being scapegoated and persecuted, when threats are being issued from the highest places against people like us, refusing to dehumanize or erase those who are engaging in the state-sanctioned violence is an act of resistance. I remember in the early months of 2025 when massive cuts were made to agriculture and farmers were like crying because they'd lost the markets for their crops and their livestock, they lost grants, and then the tariffs slammed them. And there was this Missouri farmer, his name was Skylar Holden. Maybe you remember this video. He made a video sharing that he was in danger of losing his farm and that he regretted his vote. He made himself extremely vulnerable by admitting very publicly that he was wrong. What do you think happened? He was denounced from both sides of the political spectrum. But he was especially shamed for his original vote, told he was stupid and selfish and that he deserved what was happening to him. I mean, it's all right to have those feelings inside, to work them through, but to say them to another person, what an opportunity was lost to build a bridge. You know, we know enough people are going to shift in rural, have to shift in rural Missouri for any change to happen in this state, right? And one person shows the possibility of change, and many of us blew it. We blew it. This is also happening in many actions where protesters are heaping ridicule and rage and insults at drivers who flip them off or yell insults. I mean, it's understandable why people are feeling like they want to do this, right? But again, our call is to acknowledge the feelings inside them, work with them, and then choose the actual path of resistance. You know, how are we supposed to bring about justice if we dehumanize those who are dehumanizing? No one ever changes. No one ever comes to a healthier path because of shame. No one ever. In our weekly Black Lives Matter vigils, it's not uncommon to experience verbal insults or trucks that step on the gas and cover us with diesel smoke. Really, that happens often. But everyone gets a smile and a wave, no matter what. It doesn't mean that we're soft on racism. It's actually a great strength. It is a moral high ground to resist demonstrating hatred and judgment. Remember the slogan, act local, think global? Our personal relationships are like super, super local. It's the most local you can get. And so I want to talk about some strategies that we can use in these interpersonal relationships where we feel uncomfortable. And I'm going to draw on some of the teachings from that deep canvassing training that we had last week. The deep canvassing is about building up a trained slew of people to help defeat Amendment 3, which would restore the abortion ban. And deep canvassing is not about talking points or facts or figures. It is about moving the needle with those who can be possibly moved by offering an empathetic experience of being heard, understood, and respected. We're going to do more training in the months to come, and I hope you'll think about it. But I think the process itself offers a lot that we can practice by nurturing our uncomfortable relationships and finding common ground. So here's what it can look like. You listen first, without thinking about how you're going to respond. You listen first. No interruptions, just listen and empathize. And yes, it can be very hard to hear ideas that hurt so much. When some of my loved ones start sharing how they understand things, my heart races, I get nervous and angry, I start sweating, and I start thinking in four-letter words. But part of change is in people feeling heard. So try to monitor yourself and try to really listen. Second, become curious. Become curious. Because that demonstrates that you're interested in what they have to say, that you value what they have to say. I remember one time speaking with someone who expressed frustration that immigrants want to force their ways on other people. And I tried to really listen, even though I was so angry. And I wish I had known about deep canvassing, because when I reflect back on it now, I would have tried to become more curious and maybe ask something like, can you tell me about a time when you met someone who wanted you to change? What was that like? And then third, you share something about your own life. And what I did eventually share was, I'm an immigrant. All my elders were immigrants. They all felt different all their lives. And sometimes people looked at them like they didn't matter as much, and yes, it hurt. But they didn't want to be forced to change either. They were busy trying to learn a new language in a new country and build a life. They wanted to raise their kids, have a nice home, food on the table, go to church, be safe. My great-grandfather taught us to respect other people, even if we didn't understand them. He was a role model for our whole family. And when you're doing something like this, you're sharing something real. You're becoming vulnerable and sharing something about yourself. So often when people come at us with talking points they've heard in the media, they don't have any personal experience to back it up. They're repeating talking points. And when you're sharing a story about your life, that's personal experience, not abstract talking points. Yes, I come from a family of immigrants, and they weren't focused on changing anyone. They just wanted to be respected and have a good life. Then, after you've become vulnerable yourself, you make the effort to connect through shared values. If I could go back to that conversation, of course, hindsight's 20/20, but if I could go back to that conversation, I would hold up that it's important to both of us. It's important to me, too, to be respected for who I am. It's important to me, too, that no one is forced to be something we aren't. We just want to be who we are. We just want to live our lives without people getting in the way. Now you have a shared value. And in all of this, whenever they say something that you can relate to, make sure you recognize it so that you keep building bridges between you and that person. And when the conversation starts winding down, you can re-engage their original comment. What do you think now about the idea that immigrants want people to change for them? This is the time to express your appreciation for that person and thank them for sharing about themselves because you want to know them better. And hopefully you can talk more sometime. Now that's a lot to remember, so here are the basics. Listen first before you speak. Be curious and ask questions that demonstrate you're actually interested and want to learn more. Share a personal story that connects to the topic. Identify the values you share. Come back around and ask if their thinking about the topic has shifted a bit. Express appreciation for them and thank them. Rinse and repeat. And you may not get there the first time. You probably won't get there the first time, especially if there's already been hard things happening between you and already having defenses. These things take time, and yes, you're doing the lion's share of the work. But they're also doing a lot of work by sharing with you, often expecting judgment, but instead receiving some sense that you all have something in common. There's no guarantee the conversation is going to go smoothly, that the person will change their mind on the spot, or that you won't have new things to consider about your own values. But just think about what you've learned about them and learned about yourself. I want you to think about one person in your life, someone important to you, that you have an uncomfortable relationship with. And using the model of deep canvassing, explore how you might approach them next time you meet. What would it be like to listen and be curious? What questions might you ask to go deeper? What story from your own personal life sheds a new light on something you've discussed in the past? And what shared values might you lift up? You know, our current administration depends on fear, division, and hate to separate us and take our power. And tending to our important relationships and building authentic new ones is one very powerful way to resist this separation and to weaken the forces that would have us hate and dehumanize each other. So let's be brave. Let's keep those doors open. Let's keep our minds and hearts open, and let's honor the sacred in every one of us. It won't just save us. It might help save this nation that we love so much. Amen and blessed be. I invite you to rise in body or spirit for this classic hymn, We Shall Overcome.
We shall overcome. We shall overcome. We shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand. We'll walk hand in hand someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we'll walk hand in hand someday.
We all shall be free.
We shall all be free. We shall all be free. We shall all be free someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall all be free someday.
Live in peace.
We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall live in peace someday.
Let's extinguish our chalice and share our benediction. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
We will keep a place for you wherever you may go. We'll sustain this home of faith and love you've come to know. Go in peace, bring hope to hearts that yearn. We will keep a place for you till you return.
And now, may the Spirit of life hold you, may love bless you, and may joy find a place in your days. Go in peace, and blessed be.